Hello everybody, welcome to this week's session. Do you understand the difference between a sectional and a freehold property? Are you a buyer that is thinking of buying one of the two, but you actually don't actually understand the complexity or how to differentiate between the two? In this video, we're gonna just break that down for you. Okay, so let's get to it, shall we? So what is a freehold property? So a freehold property actually describes a transfer of full ownership of rights when you own a property, which includes the building itself and actually the land that that building is standing on. So these kind of properties will include properties like a freestanding house or cluster houses, will be residential properties that are used for businesses. It will be properties like plots or small holdings, or properties that are actually in a gated community or a complex. So these can be actually properties that we regard as what we call a freehold property. So normally a freehold is a more traditional form of a residential property, uh, where the owner is responsible for all the bills and the maintenance of that property, including things like the taxes, the insurance, the upkeep, the electricity, and the water bills. So there is advantages and also there is disadvantages of owning this kind of properties. This is what you actually need to understand when you actually make the decision to decide whether to buy a sectional title or a freehold property. So let's just get to the few advantages that you will have on the freehold properties, right? So the main thing is that, as the name itself suggests free. So you have the total freedom of that property, which means that you have no restriction uh, whatsoever that can be imposed to you by other people, except the bylaws or the rules of that city where that property is actually located. But you have full freedom to do what you want in that house. Like, if you want to demolish the house, if you want to extend to renovate, you don't have to report to anybody, but you'll just need, in cases where you have to extend the house, you just need to have approved plans by the municipality, but you actually don't answer to anybody in that regard, right? Also, you have the freedom of no restriction regarding the time where you will have visitors, and you that is all up to you. You decide that for yourself. All right. So there's also other additional advantages that you will have, is that the freehold property is much easier to sell compared to a sectional property, because the ownership lies with the actual owner, and the bank loan and refinancing is easier for a freehold land. The other thing is that for freehold land, the capital appreciation is more as compared to a sectional property. But there's also some disadvantages that you will have on a freehold property, which is that the freehold is much more expensive, or is much more costly to buy, right? Because now you will be owning the land and the building itself that house is built on, right? So this makes it much more expensive, right? So this is actually the much main disadvantage that you will have for a freehold property. All right. So now let's get to a sectional property. What is it? What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Okay. So if we're getting to that, before we get to that, we actually need to actually define what a sectional title property is. So a sectional title, on the other hand, just describe a separate ownership of units or sections within a complex or development. This means that you are purchasing a section or sections and an undivided share of a common property. So properties that falls under the category of sectional title will be detached houses, will be townhouses, will be flats or apartments, right? But what you have to know is that you own a section or a unit, right, within a complex, but you are also a joint owner of the common property within the complex or within that development, right? And then this means that they will have an administration and the maintenance of that common property, which is the responsibility of what is called a body corporate, which consists of all the owners of the townhouses or the apartments in the block, who must now elect what we call trustees to handle the day-to-day management of that common property, right? So, but depending on the type of that property that you have purchased, you'll be entitled to the use of exclusive use of the garden, the parking space, the storage facilities, the staff quarters, the park within that estate, if there is. And also, there is in this regard, there's also managing agents that are often appointed. These are the people that take care of the duties of the body corporate, which include collecting of levies and paying scheme insurance premium, arranging meeting, ensuring compliance with the Sectional Title Act, ensuring that the owners and the tenant complies with the body corporate rules, because that is a small community which now must be managed with some rules, right, which are defined by the body corporate, right? So now, if you actually going into the advantages of the sectional title scheme, is that uh, the the body corporate receives funds from all the owners. This is by means of what is called levies. So these levies are used to take care of the common areas, as I already said before. So things like the upkeep of the pavement, the garden, and the exterior of the homes, all these things, and the insurances, all these things will be paid through that levy, right? And also, the other thing is that uh, in a complex setup, you have security, you have staff, you have the estate managers, and all those people. So that levy is used to pay those things, right? The only thing that you will now have to pay in your house will be the rates and taxes and water and electricity consumption, and your bond for sure if you actually use the bank or you used finance to buy your house. Okay. And the other thing is that if you are that kind of a person that likes to have that sort of live in a community based like a environment, like you want to have a communal life, this is the kind of environment or the kind of property that you should actually go for, because you have there like that communal living, kind of a living where you are so close to your neighbors and all that, then you can actually interact with the people around you, right? Then that gives you that allowance of interacting with these people. And also, a sectional title, it is perceived as more secure compared to a freehold, because you are now not just isolated alone, you are within a community. So it is much more secure, and in most cases, there's control access in that complex or a development. So that is another, let's say, advantage of living in a sectional title kind of a living, right? And also, most people who rent, they rent this kind of a property. So if you are an investor and you want to have some sort of a rental income, you can actually use this, buy a sectional title and use it as a form of a rental investment, right? So now let's go to all the disadvantages of a sectional title ownership, right? So as I said, this community will be governed by a body corporate. So this body corporate, they define some rules that everybody must comply with. Sometimes you'll find that the rules that are defined, you don't actually agree with, or you go against them, and it is very, very much difficult for you as an individual to change all these rules. So that's an advantage that you have. That's a disadvantage that you will have to live with, because you will not have any power to change them individually, unless if everybody else agree to say we need to change these rules. Okay. And the other thing is, in cases where you want to make some renovations, you want to extend, you find that you will not be able to do that, or you can only renovate inside your unit, but you cannot go outside. But if it's like a townhouse, you also need the approval of the body corporate to say you actually want to upgrade or renovate the house that you are staying in. Okay. Thank you, guys. If you have watched until this far and this video have actually added some value in your life, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share with your family. And then I will see you in the next one. Cheers.